Shalom, shalom. And first and foremost, I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash. I want to give double honor to our apostles, the other great millstone. I also say shalom to all the Akim out there preaching the truth in our true city. The brother Tazan Kabar from the GMS Miami. The Heralds of Yahushai 144 came back with another video through the Spirit. And before I start this video, I want to touch up on the true names of Heavenly Father and Son. I start with the Father, who they so-called call God. The true name is Yahweh. Which his name means he is this. The true name of his son, who the world only calls Jesus, or Jesus Christus in the Spanish, or Jesus Christ in the Haitian Creole. His true name is Yahushai. Which his name means he saves, he delivers, what he's soon about to do according to prophecy. And once again, give all praise to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Kakadash. We give the honors to our apostles, elders, great millstone. Also say shalom to all the Akim out there preaching the truth in our true city. Alright, I'm back with a quick, video through the Spirit. Lucky for my voice. Jake is under the weather, per usual. That's part of the fight. You still got to do what you got to do. As we're in this flesh, we're subject to sicknesses and pestilence. Alright. But, we still have a job to get done. And today what I have here is, Exodus 5. The first verse, before I start this video, news. I'm gonna load when I title the video news, read all about it, or extra, read all about it. You know that saying, when you have the newspaper guy, when he's passing out the news, he's like, news, extra, read all about it. Okay, I'm tying it to the scriptures. All right, how you wanna get this, get this truth, read, cleave onto Yahweh Shemashai and pay attention to what's being brought out as far as prophecy, as far as what's going on within the earth, and as far as the signs. Okay, because you want to make sure you're on your P's and Q's, you want to make sure you're on point. All right, make sure you're not in la la land, and you also too want to make sure you're in the right spirit. All right, in the spirit of watching. Okay, matter of fact, let's get this first before I grab that. 1 Peter 4:7, but the end of all things at hand. Be therefore sober and watch unto prayer, and above all things have for charity. Come on yourself, for charity shall cover to the multitude of sins. I reported verse 7. We are at the end of all things, before the end of this man's rulership. All right, and our conduct or our mindset is to be sober-minded, pay attention to what's going on, and constantly on watch. All right, because our salvation is nearer than belief. All right, but before the salvation, all right, certain things are going to happen upon the earth. Let me get this Romans chapter 13, verse 11. And that knowing the time that now is high time to wake out of sleep, for now is our salvation nearer than belief. All right. It says, the night is far spent, the days at hand. Let us therefore cast off the works of darkness, and let us put on the armor of light. Let us walk honestly as in the day, not rioting and drunkenness, not in chambering and wantonness, not in strife and envying, but put ye on the Lord Yahushua Mashiach, and make not provision of the flesh to fulfill the lust thereof. All right, seeing what's going on, seeing how salvation is near, and how prophecy is popping, and seeing how close we are to the kingdom. All right, we're supposed to conduct ourselves in a certain way. All right, so we can make ourselves, worthy in the eyes of Yahweh Shemashai when we part of that number. All right, but it starts with, paying attention, reading, and watching. All right, this is 2 Esdras 5, verse 1. It says, nevertheless, as coming the tokens, behold, the days shall come, and that they which dwell upon the earth shall be taken a great number, and the way of the truth shall be hidden, and the land shall be barren of faith. All right, tokens go into the signs. Okay, they goes into the signs. All right, and right now, what are the signs? All right, the Lord already gave us a rundown of certain things that's going to play out upon the earth before his second coming. All right, let's grab it real quick. We can get it in Matthew chapter 24. We can get a little bit in 2 Esdras 15. Let's start in Matthew chapter 24, verse 3, it says, as he sat upon a Mount Olive, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? So the disciples, was actually how shy. All right, what should we look for, all right, so we can know when are you coming? Okay. All right, what should we, pay attention to so we understand, all right, when are you going to come back, basically. It says, and Yahushua answered and said to them, take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Mashiach, and shall deceive many. And you shall hear wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Right, so then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And there shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, shall hate one another, and many false prophets shall rise, and shall deceive many. And because the nigger shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold, but he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. All right, and it goes on furthermore. All right, but these are the signs. All right, the things to pay attention, constantly paying attention to understand. All right, when is Yahushua coming and what is the end? All right, that's simultaneously. All right, the coming of Yahushua is in the end of this man's rulership, who's ruling right now in the so-called wicked, not the wicked so-called white man, I should say. All right, gonna be the end of his ruling into the beginning of the rulership of Yahushua. All right, the end of this world. All right, this age. Okay, so these are the signs that we are in constant watch of. All right, and all it takes is one Google search of news, and you're gonna see a bunch of events tying to what Yahushua just explained in Matthew chapter 24. Okay, you see famines, right, in all forms of ways, I should say. All right, famine is brewing up in all forms of ways, I should say, because you have things like the war that's going on in Iran, where is farmers are lacking fertilizer to fertilize their plants to grow. That's one. You have droughts, and too much farmers quitting, their things, and all these things lead to famines, and also to truckers not having gas. That's famine brewing up. But how would you know if you're not paying attention and tying these things, from the news and to the scriptures? And you got the wars, we got a bunch of little skirmishes going on, especially in the Middle East. Okay, with this Iran war that's intensifying week by week or day by day. All right, because there's a purpose. All right, soon later for the Lord to draw all these nations out to the Middle East for the the purpose of World War III, and also for the Lord to judge these nations. All right, that's happening. And you got pestilence and these C-19 new variants and all these other things that's brewing up. All these things are happening simultaneously. All right, but it's all for the sake of prophecy. It's all of it for for to happen before the coming of Yahushua. But let's go back to that 2 Esdras 5, verse 1, where it goes into it says, they that shall dwell upon the earth, just like that day which dwell upon the earth shall be taken great number, and the way in truth shall be barren, and the land shall be barren. And a lot of people are going to take in great numbers by death. All right, a lot of death is going to come upon the earth. And famine of the word is going to come upon the earth. All right, going to be a very few men also too that's going to have the word, firmly, which is really the elect, that's going to stand stiffly for his name and have his truth within them, because they took heed and took the advantage of the great spirit. All right, Lord, cleave unto them through the spirit. But let's go back to where it's talking about death real quick. 2 Esdras 15, verse 1, it says, behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, said the Lord. It says, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. And right now, this is the time where the Lord is having his men out here on the highways and byways, on the platforms, TikTok, YouTube, prophesying to the nation of Israel, the true nation of Israel, so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans. All right, right now, all right, the famine of the word hasn't happened yet. All right, but soon in the future, all right, the Lord is going to withdraw his men from upon the scenes. It says, fear not the imagination against thee. Let not the incredulity of them trouble thee that speak against thee. So let not the disbelief or unbelief of these people, all right, trouble you. All right, because we do understand, all right, this truth is really only for the elect. All right, Scripture said the elect shall obtain it, and the rest were blinded. All right, we're going to have people that's not going to take heed, and people that's also too going to scoff, and so on, so on. It says, for all of them faithful shall die in their faithfulness. That's the judgment of those who don't believe. It says, the point verse 5, he said, behold, said the Lord, I will bring plagues upon upon the world. Okay, it says the sword, all right, famine and death. Okay, we just read a lot of people are taking great number. All right, that goes into death. And it says in destruction, for wickedness hath a city polluted earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled. All right, that's the cause and effect. All right, people want to be wicked. All right, the Lord is going to slay you. You want to go against the ways of Yahweh Shemashai, the Lord is going to slay you. Just point blank. It says, I'm going to read on this. Therefore, said the Lord, I will hold my tongue no more as to their wickedness, which they profanely commit. Neither will I suffer them in those things in which they wickedly exercise themselves. Behold, the innocent and righteous blood cried unto me, and the soul of the just complain continually. And I'm gonna stop right there. But just tying it back to the second just 5:1, where it goes to people taking great number of people and die. All right, whoever don't serve the Lord, man or woman, shall be put to death. And that's basically just a cause and effect. A lot of people too are also in the mindset of flourishing in wickedness. All right, people are still indulging in wickedness. All right, there's a price to pay, especially for our people. Our people want to continue sinning. All right, which is the wages of sin and death. All right, Scripture say that. All right, that's too center story for our people. This is the way, and also to the last end of this verse, the way of the truth shall be hidden, and then shall be granted faith. Because eventually, all right, the Lord is going to withdraw his men from upon the scenes. Okay, and that's why we take, we tell our people to take advantage. All right, as the Lord has his grace period open. Amos 8:11 said, behold, the days come, said the Lord, I power, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of the Lord. They shall wander from sea to sea, from the north even to the east. They shall run to and fro to seek the word of the Lord, and shall not find it. Why is that? Because they're going to be able to see these things actually pop off. All right, a lot of reason why Jake don't take heed right now is because it's not happening too close to home. All right, they see all these things happening outside of the U.S., but when these things start hitting home, that's when they're going to try to seek the men of the Lord, but it's going to be already too late. All right, our job as being prophets is to say before, to make warning before these things happen. All right, not within the midst of these things happening, then we crying out, no. All right, that would be foolish of us. Okay, that beats the purpose. So eventually, when the Lord withdraws his truth, all right, when the Lord withdraws his truth, or from the highways and byways, or from the highways and byways on these platforms, okay, that's going to be the time of the famine of the word. All right, I'm trying to find it. Was it the tongue shall cleave? This is where is that? If I'm not mistaken, it might be in Ezekiel. If I find it, it's close to one. Basically saying the Lord is going to have our tongues cleave to the root of our mouth. If not, fine, it's called to up. Basically just showing how the Lord's going to make us, not prophesy no more. That's why we say make no tarry. All right. Make no tarry to turn back to the Lord. All right. Is Sirach chapter 5, also known as Ecclesiastes chapter 5 or 7. It says, make no tarry to turn to the Lord and put not from day to day. For suddenly shall the wrath of the Lord come forth, and in thy security thou shalt be destroyed and perish in the day of vengeance. Okay. It says, set not thy heart upon goods unjustly gotten, for they shall not profit thee in the day of calamity. Okay. That's why we, so I tell Jake, hey, seek the Lord while he may be found. Seek him now. All right. Jake like to put off day to day. Jake like to be in that last minute procrastination spirit. I got is a term, brothers know me. It's a term I like to call Jake the deathbed ass niggas, and people on their deathbed. That's when they want to call upon the Lord. That's Jake for you. Okay, but it's gonna be soon time where that's not gonna be able to happen. All right, because you took the Lord for granted. All right, the Lord is gonna soon laugh at your calamity, let these certain things take you and consume you because you didn't want to take heed. All right, and that's just all right because the Lord made His words known to all His people. The scripture said, "Have they not heard? Yes, verily." All right, a lot of our people never heard about the Israelites. Not that they heard about the name of Yahushua and the Hebrews and how we the true people and we are the chosen people. The Lord, is blameless. Okay, but yeah, that's it. Low one is Jesus edifying. Give our praise to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahushua, by Hashem Kakadash. We double honor to apostles as great millstone. I also say shalom to honor Akim, that preaching his truth. Not true city. I'm gonna say keep fighting, keep enduring. I want to say up a thumb. Shalom.